Hello there and welcome back to another review. So today we're going to be able to look at a film that I probably should have reviewed ages ago. It's a film I probably should have tackled a lot sooner than what I have, and that is Yuen Ping's Iron Monkey, made back in 1993. Starring Rongguang and Donnie Yuen. The whole movie is pretty much sort of a Robin Hood type of movie, done in that sort of new wave kung fu style. You know, robbing from the rich, giving to the poor, whilst having that classic Once Upon a Time in China feel running through it. This film is definitely not as epic and as groundbreaking in movie making terms, but what you get here is 90 minutes with Yuen Ping doing his things in terms of wire work, choreography, and as always, going way over the top with the fight sequences, as you come to expect from sort of the Yuen clan, especially when they got into sort of the wire work type of thing, especially in the 90s, the Yuen Ping films from the 90s. Very much, if you look at Once Upon a Time in China 2 and sort of the films, there was also Tai Chi Master that Wu Ping done. But particularly Iron Monkey, it's so over the top. The fight sequences are so all like out there that it is just Yuen Ping and he's just going crazy. Just doing his things in terms of the wire work, the choreography, and as always in a way, just going above and beyond just what you come to expect. There is also another film called Iron Monkey, made back in 1977, starring Shi-kwan, not to be confused with this one. This, I believe, was Wu Ping's 18th film or so as a director. I think it was around sort of the 17th or 18th film he had directed it to this point. So, of course, working with his favourite protege, Donnie Yen here, who'd been with him Mishmatch Couples, Tiger Cage, Drunken Tai Chi, to name but a few. It was, of course, Once Upon a Time in China 2 that really put Donnie Yen on the map, which, of course, had Yuen Ping choreographing the fight scenes as well. Although Donnie sometimes gets top billing in this film, it really is Rongguang who takes the main centre stage here. Soy Hark also produced and wrote this, but I think it's implied he did direct. I think some people have said he did direct some of the scenes. How much of that is true, I'm not too sure, but I think Soy Hart did have quite a bit to do with this film. As I say, this is wire work and editing and fight choreography of the highest degree, and whilst the film does have a theme like sort of running through it about character to help others and the hardships of a father and son, it doesn't become preachy and bloated like some scenes sort of in Once Upon a Time in China might seem to be to some people, especially in the early Once Upon a Time in China 1, 2, where it does get some of them films, some of the like them two movies, they are a bit preachy in places. Excuse me. Something that Sammo Hung definitely dialed down a lot when he took over Once Upon a Time in China America. And there's even a scene in China America where Wang Fei-hung is going to give a speech and everybody sort of rolls their eyes and sort of falls asleep because, you don't want to be patronised as an audience guy. I fully respect and understand how important Once Upon a Time in China is. But Iron Monkey is very much, let's just have fun. Let's not do a story. I mean, Wang Fei-hung is in it, but as like a young child. But this film is very much sort of, let's have a Robin Hood type story. Let's just make it fun. Let's not make it preachy. Let's not make it bloated, and just have fun with it. And the focus here is very much on fights, and believe you and me, there is a lot of them, right? There is a lot of fights in this movie, and as the film goes on, they get more and more faster, more frenetic, more intense, and just more visually striking as the film goes on. So you can imagine after working together on Once Upon a Time in China 2, Wu Ping was like, let me and you have a go at Wang Fei-hung's story to Donnie Yen, and Soy Hark's, okay then, I'll produce it, write it, you can direct it. So we have Iron Monkey, who is this masked vigilante who the officials are trying to catch. We have Shun-yi as Fox here, who many of you remember from Dreadnought, Dance of the Drunken Mantis. And speaking of like Yuen Ping, isn't it about time that the Buddhist Fist got a release? I mean, that's one of my all-time favourite sort of Yuen Ping vehicles. I do think that needs a re-release, sort of a deluxe edition. It really does need to sort of get sort of an up-to-date release, the Buddhist Fist. So as he is trying to break into the governors, we have monks there who are trying to help apprehend him. Even with that opening sequence, this is going to be a mad, bonkers Yuen Ping kung fu vehicle. That right away, right from the get-go. Just mad, crazy, off the wall, defies the laws of physics, fight scenes, fight choreography, and it's all good stuff. This is why it always annoyed me sort of when Crouching Tiger come out, because when Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon come out, Great movie, but loads of people, like I knew, they were like, have you seen it? God, it's amazing. I'm like, yeah, I watched something like 7 years before, and like sort of Iron Monkey and Once Upon a Time in China. Like, I love Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but where that film was so huge, it got people aware of martial arts, kung fu cinema. I remember like when that came out, it's like, have you seen Crouching Tiger? I was like, yeah. Have you seen Iron Monkey? And they're like, no. So when you've been watching that kind of style for 7 or 8 years, and then just because a film's so successful, it's like everybody suddenly wakes up to sort of that sort of Hong Kong style of movie making and fight scenes. So Iron Monkey is actually Dr. Yang, who charges the rich for treatment but lets the poor people sort of have it for free. He is just basically a do-gooder, basically. Rongguang's character, he's just a do-gooder, trying to help people do the right thing. He's got that sort of Wang Fei Hung aesthetic going on, where he is trying to help people. He hasn't got a bad bone in his body, that kind of thing. Sort of Wang Fei Hung-esque kind of character. Fox is the incompetent police chief tasked with bringing him in. Yang works at Po Chi Hall, which is pretty much Po Chi Lam. Yang gives the gold he has stolen to the poor and needy. So as you come to expect, it's a Robin Hood story. He's trying to help those in need, So we find out the governor is having someone come down from the capital to inspect him and see how things are going. And in his panic, he orders anyone who even resembles a monkey to be arrested. Even arrested one guy, thinking just because he looks like a monkey, he gets arrested. So this is when we meet Wang Kei-ying, played by Donnie Yuen, and a young Wang Fei Hung. And within the first few minutes of being introduced to him, we see Donnie doing some amazing stuff with the umbrella, which of course we've always come to associate with that Wang Fei Hung character. So because he can fight, the governor's guards arrest him, Wang Fei Hung, and his dad. Kei-ying is actually going to be executed when Iron Monkey shows up. Kei-ying fights him and he goes after him, as to be fair, it's basically Iron Monkey's fault that him and all these other people have been arrested. So naturally Kei-ying is like, I want to get out of here, he just goes after the guy. If that's the guy you're after, I'll get him. Great fight here between the two. Donnie really getting to show off some amazing footwork, as you would come to expect, and leg work. Throughout the movie, actually, Donnie Yen really does get to... Donnie's a great kicker anyway. But some of the fight scenes here and there are sped up a tiny little bit as you come. Not all the time, just various little moments are just slightly sped up. But Donnie Yen, nonetheless, does still get to show off his amazing footwork. So after this altercation, Kei-ying says he will help capture Iron Monkey and is given 7 days. In the meantime, his son Fei Hung is captured and held. So, like I mentioned, compared to Once Upon a Time in China, which you could, I think it's fair to compare this film to. I know in tonally they're both very different, but it has still got a Wang Fei Hung undercurrent there. It is still very much sort of in that new wave wirework style. So I think it's fair to sort of compare the two. Not send them, to put the two films pitted against each other, but I think it's fair to make comparisons between the two. So once out on the streets, Kei-ying is starving, and none of the traders will sell him, as the people they like Iron Monkey because Iron Monkey is helping them out and making their lives easier. Miss Ho, played by Wang, and Dr. Yang take him in, and they have like a massive cook-off. I must say, what they are cooking in this scene looks absolutely delicious, by the way. So Yang and Orchid, as she is known, go to bring Fei Hung back to theirs as he is ill. Fox is on Kei-ying's side and he's like, look, if you can't catch him, I'll work something out. So Fox is sort of, he's got a heart, okay, in Shun-yi's character. Then we have an awesome fight with these monks kidnapping this woman and this female fighter, White Eagle. And I loved this scene when I first saw it, especially when Donnie, when he's taking on these people. And again, when I'm talking about footwork, Donnie again here really does get to show off his stuff. And there was one scene when I saw this for the first time that I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I saw it for the first, I must have been around 98 I saw this movie. But there's a move that one of the enemies jumping at Donnie, and Donnie just does a spin kick, like a roundhouse kick, and kicks this sandbag, right, just into this guy. And I thought for some reason it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen to that point. I thought that move, all he's doing is kicking a sandbag, but it was just the way it was done, and it being so young at the time, it just blew my mind. It really did blow my mind, like how fast and energetic that fight scene is. And I think it probably is, although brief, I think it probably is my favourite scene in the whole of the movie. just it does it with this spin kick, and I thought it was just incredible. We learn via flashback that Orchid once lost a child, and that is why throughout the film she develops a fondness for the young Fei Hung. So we have comedy in the film, of course, with Yang and Orchid pretending to be officials when they go to the governor's, wearing fake beards and disguises. They always have to inject, Yuen Wu-ping being who he is, he's going to always inject a bit of offbeat comedy, so to speak. Fei Hung, now healed, tries to raise some money by demonstrating kung fu and has a great fight with the synonymous umbrella. So our villain in this Hin Hung, who is sort of like someone who turned his back on the Shaolin Temple and become an imperial officer, played by Shi-kwan, who was the baddie in Once Upon a Time in China and Fearless Hyena, Dragon Fist. He's usually the villain in a lot of movies. He turns up at the governor's, who now realises that he has been had when Yang come before. Kei Ying and Fei Hung are like reunited. Iron Monkey is running with Hung followers. Don't also underestimate Rongguang's performance in this film as well. Always reliable, no matter what he is in. Most of you will probably remember him from like Shanghai Noon. He was also in the Karate Kid remake with Jackie Chan. We also have, unless you're a real Kung Fu aficionado and a real Kung Fu fan, we also have Sao Ho here as this like swordman who was in many of the classic Liu Ka Leung Shaw Brothers movies. Yang absolutely goes to town here when she is ambushed with the chain whip, and is a fantastic fight scene. After chasing Iron Monkey, Donnie Yen challenges Hung, and all I can say is watch out for that King Kong palm, as the subtitles say. This technique injures Iron Monkey, and Donnie Yen gets injured too. Kei Ying finds out who he really is. Thankfully, Wang Kei Ying's poachy lamb technique is able to heal them both. Fei Hung is told to go back to Fushan by his dad, but he actually doesn't go anywhere. Even though his dad does order him to, he doesn't go anywhere. Throughout the film, we have Kei Ying wanting his son to grow up, and that's sort of an undercurrent with this film. Despite all its simpleness, if you will, there is sort of that element of, a father and son, a father wanting to do best by his son and also like to protect his son. Donnie Yen as Wang Kei Ying he plays the part quite well. I think the whole idea with when him and Yuen Wu-ping teamed up, they didn't want to just sort of repeat what Jet Li had done before in Once Upon a Time in China. They wanted to just add some new gravitas to the fight sequences. They wanted to put a different spin on sort of using the umbrella and things like that, and to that end they do succeed. We also learn him, like, Hung has put an arrest warrant out on Kei Ying, and for some reason doesn't seem to be that concerned about Iron Monkey anymore, which is really weird. Like, they stop focusing on Iron Monkey and they're more concerned with like getting Kei Ying for some reason. Then we have probably the most brutal scene in the movie, with the monks working for Hin Hung coming to the clinic and are basically going to sexually assault Jean Wang's character, which can be considered a bit of a dark scene in comparison to the rest of the movies. Up to this point, it has been somewhat sort of fun and light-hearted in tone, but this scene in particular does take a bit of a sinister, dark turn. Thankfully, Fei Hung beats them up, so any major concern is thankfully put to rest. Then Eagle Claw Witch randomly turns up too. I'm not sure why they go to the clinic. I mean, Hin Hung does wanted posters for Kei Ying, but if he knew he was at the clinic, did he really have to make the posters? So he's put all these posters up. If he knew he was at the clinic anyway, why did they go through the effort of actually putting these posters up? Him and Dr. Yang are sort of hiding. Well, I say hiding, I really mean just hiding out with some sort of Kei Ying and Dr. Yang. They're sort of hiding. And I use that term loosely because all they're doing is basically just sitting with some homeless people. Oh, by the way, the baddies have taken Fei Hung at this point as well, just in case they've taken Fei Hung. So we had attempted sexual assault, and then them just whipping a child as they want to know where Kei Ying is. Like I say, just totally have given up with all but given up with Iron Monkey at this point. As I say, that whole plot has gone out the window. They just want Kei Ying. So our two heroes, along with Orchid, go to get him back. Ending is just what you would expect. Great stuff. My favourite bit being, though, when Orchid, she throws darts at Hin Hung that injures one of his ladies. He then proceeds to throw this said girl across the room, who then she gets kicked out of the way by Jean Wang. And again, it's done so fast and so quick. Blink and you miss it. But if you watch the end of this movie, you'll see the bit. He just throws this girl and she just kicks him out of the way. So yeah, just watch out for that. As I say, the ending is just as mad and as bonkers as you would expect from a Yuen Wu-ping vehicle. Look no further than Chen Quan-tai using flying sleeves kung fu, which basically means he has the whole dials in from Street Fighter 2 vibe going on. So naturally the place catches fire, as what always seems to happen at the end of these movies. Never ever far from the place catching alight. Whenever there's a big showdown, if it's not a construction site or a warehouse or a factory, more often than not, wherever they are, it's going to catch fire. That's just standard etiquette to how to end a movie. So a great 2 versus 1 fight scene on top of poles above the flames. The editing on this movie is nothing short of just quick fire, rapid editing at its best. The editing is just absolutely outstanding. I mean, there's cuts all over the place, and it all adds up to making the action just as cool looking and as great as you would expect. I mean, how do you even, when you watch the end of Iron Monkey, how do you even go about mapping and planning a scene like that? Like, how do you even go about even shooting a scene like that? I mean, it's relentless. It really, especially with Yuen Wu-ping in charge, just the editing and the quick-fire, rapid pace of it all, it really is just off the wall. As I say, this film is, especially in terms of plot, really simple. But in terms of fight scenes, the film is absolutely bonkers. Like, it really is that off the wall. Just to add to making the action just as cool looking, as great as you would expect. I mean, how do you even go about doing it? It is a shame that Hin Hung, our villain, is not fleshed out as much as he could have been. Very much one-dimensional. And to be honest, I feel he could have really done with a lot more screen time. Shi-kwan, I think although he's reliable as ever in the part, I think he would have benefited from a lot more screen time within the film, just so we the audience could get into the character a lot more. They do give him a bit of a backstory, like he's turned his back on the temple, them kind of things, but I wanted a bit more from the character, because I love Shi-kwan, as you know, if you've seen any of my other reviews. Dragon Fist is one of my all-time favourite Jackie Chans. I think it's a vastly underrated Jackie Chan, and he's in that movie as well, so I have a bit of a soft spot for Shi-kwan. So here, seeing him in this, his character, it's okay, but by the numbers, he's very just sort of one-dimensional. And I think he could have just done with just maybe 2 or 3 more scenes to help flesh him out a little bit more, so we could just get into him a bit more. Just has that, here's a baddie, he's betrayed by the temple, good guys have to fight him. That's all there is basically to it. So the film, in many ways, I always saw as a sort of lighter Once Upon a Time in China, and I think that is what you could look at this film as, type of movie. The action, for the most part, throughout Iron Monkey, as I mentioned earlier, doesn't stop. The action is relentless. It keeps on coming at you. You have a fight scene, and you're usually only around maybe about 5 or 6 minutes from the next fight scene. That is no bad thing. Believe you me, that is no bad thing. I mean, I love kung fu movies. I like it when directors take their foot off the gas a little bit and do let the film breathe. But I also like it when a filmmaker knows what you've come to see. I'll give you a fight scene every 6 minutes, and that's precisely what Yuen Wu-ping does here. There is nothing, with this movie and the fight scenes, a lot of people said it's quite cartoonish. But this is Yuen Wu-ping's style. There's nothing based on the laws of physics with these sequences either, which all adds to the fun. And it's easy to see, especially watching Iron Monkey, why he was the guy that Hollywood wanted in the late 90s and early 2000s. It's well worth checking out. I mean, even in films like sort of Dance the Drunken Mantis, and like I mentioned, like Buddhist Fist, there's still crazy stuff in there. The Yuen Wu-ping and the Yun clan have always been off the wall. They've always been a bit not taking it entirely seriously. They, compared to somebody like Lu Ka-lung, who was always trying to show the true kung fu, Yuen Wu-ping was basically, I'll give you a kung fu movie, but I'm going to go as crazy with it as I want to do, and Iron Monkey is no exception to that. But it's a great film. It's not it's not my favourite Yuen Wu-ping vehicle, and I don't think it's as good necessarily as the first Once Upon a Time in China movies, but like I mentioned, what you get here is very much a lighter hearted Once Upon a Time in China-esque type of movie that is well worth checking out, and it's definitely worth checking out if you're unfamiliar with sort of anything else that Yuen Wu-ping hasn't done outside of sort of The Matrix, Kill Bill, Crouching Tiger. Then make sure to go and check out Iron Monkey, and you do also get a great performance from Rongguang and some great legwork from Donnie. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you soon.
concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.